The Sad Life of King George III, the king who lost everything. Meet King George III, the unhappy king, the man who lost America and even Farmer George. His reign, far from boring, was a tumultuous journey filled with scandals that culminated in a truly tragic ending. Was he a true villain or a scapegoat for all? Join us as we delve into the sorrowful tale of King George III and let you be the judge. The Americans saw him as their enemy, and even his own people joined in the criticism. When George III was born, it caused fear and panic. As the firstborn son to Frederick, Prince of Wales, and Augusta of Saxe-Gotha, he arrived 2 months early, and his birth order was the least of his family's worries at that moment. Due to high infant mortality, George's parents feared for his life and soul. The Bishop of Oxford baptized him on the same day as his birth, fearing that he might not survive the night. Against the odds, he seemed to be pulling through. Did his troubled entry into the world foretell a dark reign? If you believe in omens, the answer is a definite yes. George's survival was a miracle, especially when his father Frederick faced disdain with his own family. King George II and Frederick's mother loathed him, as suspicion surrounded Augusta's pregnancy. George III entered a tense family dynamic that only worsened over time. Despite his family's low opinion, Prince Frederick was a good father to George III, providing a quality education. George III was the first king to study science. However, the king didn't show much interest in the boy, and that was about to change suddenly. In his teen years, a tragedy shook George's life, the sudden death of his father, Prince Frederick. Now fatherless, George became the next in line for the throne, intensifying the battle between his mother and extended family for control. George experienced a custody battle of sorts, but on a royal scale. His grandfather wanted him at St. James's Palace, while his mother, with Lord Bute, fought to keep him close. Others also fought for George's affection in this tumultuous family struggle. At a point when a young king typically looks for romance, George found himself drawn to the ladies. Unlike his father and grandfather, who were known for their romantic escapades, George took love very seriously. When he spotted Lady Sarah Lennox, a noted beauty at court, he fell head over heels, but it didn't turn out very well. Upon hearing a rumour about Lady Sarah and the Duke of Marlborough, George sank into deep depression, spending hours alone in his room and losing sleep. Despite being only 21, he acted like a troubled teenager. Seeking advice from his mother's advisor, Lord Bute, George didn't get the support that he hoped for. Lord Bute warned George that marrying Lady Lennox wouldn't be good for the country. Whether it was true or not, George followed the advice. This decision left him heartbroken and raised questions among Lord Bute's influence. King George II was shaken by these events, and a new battle emerged among George's closest allies, each fighting to choose his wife. The battle was cut short by a tragic event. In 1760, King George II suddenly passed away, leaving George III as the last man standing at the age of 22. While he no longer dealt with his grandfather and mother's fractions, he remained vulnerable to those who sought to control him. Being single and in need of an heir, King George III had to act quickly. Initially considering a return to Lady Sarah Lennox with newfound agency, George's actions alarmed Lord Bute, who feared losing his influence. To secure his position, Lord Bute presented George with potential German brides, and surprisingly, it worked. Princess Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz, considered plain and unremarkable, emerged as an unexpected choice for queen. George III, running out of time, proposed immediately due to her suitable background and lack of political motives. Their union, however, held a surprising twist. In 1761, Princess Charlotte arrived in London, realizing she would not only meet King George III for the first time, but also marry him immediately. Overwhelmed, she fainted, Revived by her attendants, a bewildered Charlotte met her future husband, botching the introduction and starting their relationship on a less than ideal note. It was too late to turn back, so everyone pretended to be brave and hoped for the best. Charlotte put on a charming act that night and won George's heart. They got married later, turning their shared nightmare into a kind of fairy tale. Charlotte impressed not only George, but everyone at the end of the night was praising her. However, there was one person who remained hard to please. George's mother, Dowager Princess Augusta, had married his father hoping to become queen someday. That dream slipped away, but she still had her son. Well, she sensed trouble when he fell for Charlotte, so she started acting like a seriously mean mother-in-law. Augusta couldn't control her son, but she did everything to undermine her daughter-in-law. She even placed spies among the Queen's attendants, but her power-hungry ways would soon backfire. Scandals quickly surfaced in George III's reign. Shortly after his coronation, he faced embarrassing rumours about his mother. When Lord Bute became Prime Minister, people started whispering about an affair between him and Princess Augusta. The court was shocked, dealing the first but not the last blow to George's trust in the man that he had relied on the most, as if he didn't have enough to deal with. George III took the throne at a challenging time. Britain was in the middle of the 7 Years' War, an enormous conflict. Initially accepted by Parliament, George faced opposition when his friend Lord Bute became Prime Minister. The rumours about Lord Bute and his mother damaged George's relationship with the Prime Minister, but if he wanted to escape the trouble, they had to work together. By 1763, the war was draining Britain, but the French were in worse shape. Talks of peace began, with leniency towards opponents in Spain and France. There was just one issue. Many saw it as a weakness, even a betrayal by the king and Lord Bute. In a terrifying incident, an angry mob attacked the king's carriage. Still, Britain had to end things, luckily with an advantage. The end of the 7 Years' War was a triumph for Great Britain. Gaining territories including parts of North America, it marked the era when Great Britain was famously called a vast empire, on which the sun never sets. Initially, England's American colonists celebrated the victory, but things changed. As we wrap up the sad life of George III, Part 1, The King Who Lost Everything, we ponder the legacy of a monarch whose rule was marred by family strife, political intrigue, and personal tragedy. The Americans deemed him their enemy, and criticism abounded from his own people. Was King George III a victim of circumstance, or did he play a part in his own downfall? The answers are elusive, leaving us with a poignant tale of a monarch who faced the harsh realities of power and paid the price. In the next episode, we'll witness the devastating aftermath of George's failed efforts to quell the growing dissent, his surprising political victories, and the tragic toll on his mental and physical health. As the storm clouds gather, George faces family conspiracies, political challenges, and a deteriorating state of mind that will leave an undeniable mark on his reign. Stay tuned for the next chapter in the sorrowful tale of King George III.